It's strange to think that the pandemic was just a few years ago. As of this video, the start of the COVID-19 pandemic was already 4 years ago, and the world has already returned to a sense of normalcy since then. During that time, a lot of businesses and just the world around us came to a standstill as people were under lockdown and quarantined to prevent the spread of the virus. Tokyo Coffee grinding in the pandemic puts us in the shoes of a cafe owner as we see through their eyes how much the pandemic has affected the lives of the people around them. Does the game capture what it truly felt like to live during those hard times? Tokyo Coffee is a mainly story-heavy game that focuses on the different experiences of how the people in Japan dealt with the ongoing pandemic. The game starts off on July 26, 2024, just as the Paris Olympics was just getting started and is told mostly through flashbacks of the happenings during the year the pandemic started. You are put in the shoes of the master of the cafe and are reminiscing with a former employee named Chika as the pandemic has all but calmed down already by this point. You and Chika pretty much worked together throughout the entire pandemic and were able to meet and get to know quite a number of people who are dealing with the pandemic in their own way. Tokyo Coffee touches upon a lot of subjects that were very common during the pandemic, all told by many different customers you meet during those difficult times. These range from companies shifting to a work-from-home system to having to deal with the cancellation of certain events due to the infection rates that were on the rise at the time. The characters you meet do all have some stories to tell, but it's quite a shame that the characters themselves are very forgettable and are only there to give exposition about the ongoing pandemic. It doesn't help that you can't really connect well with the characters, as most of the time you don't see the face of the characters you are talking to. Tokyo Coffee grinding in the pandemic is a first-person cafe simulator in which you are put in the shoes of the master of a cafe dealing with the ongoing pandemic. The game gives off the same vibes as more barista simulator games like Valhalla or Coffee Talk, in which you meet quite a few patrons each with their own story to tell and serve them whatever drink they fancy. In this case, it's coffee. These customers also all have their own taste in coffee, and it's up to you to brew coffee that aligns with these tastes. Some customers prefer a bitter coffee experience, while others prefer their coffee on the sweeter side, and knowing which ones to serve is a surefire way to please these customers. After serving your customers their desired cup of coffee, only then they will open up with their thoughts and how they feel about the pandemic. And that's pretty much the gameplay loop of the entire game. You talk to each customer, give them coffee, and then you learn more about them. Tokyo Coffee is a very educational game as you are able to learn all about the happenings of how Japan dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic. There is even a glossary section of the menu in which you can read all the important moments and terms of the pandemic. The game itself is quite short as it can be completed in around 2 to 3 hours, which is honestly a good thing as the gameplay does start to overstay its welcome during the later moments of the game. To be honest, the loop does get pretty old fast as there really isn't much to shake up the main gameplay loop. Although there was one time where you play a card game, but that only happens once during the entire game. It would have been nice if the stories themselves were engaging, but some of them were quite dull and made us zone out during some of them. The game itself does have an interesting concept, but it does fall short with how it was executed and makes the game largely forgettable. The visuals are one of the more notable features of the game as it really nails the cozy cafe vibe. The warm feel of the background and the cafe makes you feel at ease and makes one want to go out and chill in an actual cafe. It's a shame that we can't really say much about the characters' designs as you only see each character from the neck below, which makes it hard for us to connect and enjoy the characters shown on the screen. The music also does a well enough job as it fits with the overall vibe of the game. You also better get accustomed to listening to some jazz as that is pretty much all you'll be hearing as you serve the customers. We here at Game8 are giving Tokyo Coffee grinding in the pandemic a 62 out of 100. The concept definitely sounds interesting on paper, but everything about the execution of the game and how the characters are portrayed all feel like a missed opportunity. The game honestly feels like it was made too early as the pandemic is still quite fresh in people's minds. Maybe it would have been better if the game came out a few years later as a way for the younger generation to learn about the pandemic in an interesting and interactive way. The game costs around $10 on Steam right now, which is a fair price for a simple indie game cafe simulator, but it does make us wonder, who is the game actually for? But how about you guys? Have you tried Tokyo Coffee grinding in the pandemic? Let us know in the comments below. Like if you liked and subscribe for more gaming related content. We'll see you in the next one.